and welcome to my tutorial on jazz chords. Hola y bienvenidos a mi tutorial sobre acordes de jazz. Voy a seguir como siempre en inglés desde ahora. I'm going to continue the tutorial in English from now. Now, all of these jazz chords and the sections of this tutorial can be used with any of the blues and boogie-woogie left hands in other tutorials. So please see my other tutorials on blues left hands and boogie-woogie left hands. Also of interest, my tutorial on introductions and endings, as well as my tutorial on blues improvisation. Those will be very useful. Now, today's tutorial has 9 sections. So, section 1, I'm going to give you 2 jazz chords. Here's the first, in the key of C. When we transpose that to F and G, here's G. However, see my tutorial on Boogie Woogie for the mathematical strategy for transposing. So just to recap, jazz chord number 1 with that dominant 7th. Here's the second jazz chord. Very similar, but instead of the 7th, it's got a 6th, that A. In F, in G, and that was section 1. Now that's 2 jazz chords immediately. Section 2. I want to look at options in bar 5. Bar 5, we go to F in the 12-bar blues. Now, I've just shown you, you could transpose your right hand to the equivalent chord in the key of F. However, with the 2 chords I've given you, and there's a great strategy in bar 5, just change this E to an E flat. So playing bars 4 and 5, C and F, with jazz chord 1, this is how this would sound like. 2, 3, 4. Playing bars 4 and 5 with jazz chord 2, remember with that A, that's how this would sound. 2, 3, 4. Now with both of these chords, or when we go to bar 9 and G, this chord works very well in both cases. Just to recap, that chord in G, which works well in bar 9, F, A, B, E. Moving on, section 3, I'm going to give you a 3rd jazz chord, which I like to call a Dr. John chord or a New Orleans chord. It's got a major 3rd in the bottom note and a minor 3rd as the top note. In F, in G. And that was section 3. Section 4, simple application, a quick sound check. How does all of this sound? section 5, simple application, let's look at rhythm options. I've already started to introduce 1 or 2 syncopated rhythms, but let's look at 3 rhythms that generally work well. I'm just going to play these rhythms with the very first jazz chord just to illustrate them. So here's the first of these 3 rhythms in section 5, 2, 3, 4. Here's the second of these rhythms, 2, 3, 4. And here's the third of these rhythms, 2, 3, 4. Of course, there are numerous other rhythms. The main thing with rhythms, pick a rhythm and stick with it. Section 6. I call this semitone lead-ins. I'm just going to illustrate what I mean. 2, 3, 4. Now, that lead-in comes in on beat 4 of the bar before your target bar, so to speak. Watch. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I'm going to give you the notation for these lead-ins, just so you know. These lead-ins work with all of the 3 chords I've shown you so far. Remember? Chord 2, chord 3. However, this simple lead-in with these 3 notes, technically it's a C sharp 9th, F, A flat, E flat. Remember, we're always thinking ahead 1 bar, so it comes in beat 4 of the bar before your target chord, your target beat. I'll just transpose that chord again into F. Having said F, of course, it's technically an F sharp 9th. And in G, and again, having said G, technically it's an A flat 9th. And that was section 6, semitone lead-ins. Section 7 of 9, jazz chord 4. I'm going to give you a new jazz chord here, getting away from those 9ths and around this 3rd. Here is the 4th jazz chord I'd like to give you today. Right, let's deconstruct that. In C, it's a 7th, a 3rd and a 6th. Transposing that to F, I prefer to play it down. You'll notice in general I've played the chords quite low in the right hand. This gives more echo, more resonance and more power. So, in F, and in G, remember, 7th, 3rd, 6th. Now, in the previous section, I talked about semitone lead-ins. With this new chord, if you take each of these 3 notes up a semitone using the same timing as the previous section, in other words, beat 4 of the bar before, 1, 2, 3, 4. We can use lead-ins for this new chord as well. It works very well coming down from the G to the F. Section 8, combining different jazz chords. Now, this 4th jazz chord I've just given you, if you played that in bars 1, 2, 3 and 4 in C, and then reverted to jazz chord number 1 in bar 5 in the key of F, the movement from there to here is minimal. And that's a great combination to use, especially with semitone lead-ins like this. Moving on, as we finish 9 and 10, bars 9 and 10, let's use this 4th jazz chord and do a lead-in, semitone lead-in to jazz chord 1 of the day. Again, movement is minimal between in G, in F, in C. That was section 8, jazz chord combinations, making life easy for yourself. Last but not least, section 9, improvising. Now, I mentioned my tutorial on blues improvisation. Now, here, with these jazz chords, you could do 2 strategies. You could improvise on the blues scale in C in bars 1 and 2, and then play some of these jazz chords in bars 3 and 4, and continue alternating. Improvise 1 and 2, 5 and 6, 9 and 10. Here's an example. Improvising bars 1 and 2, 2, 3, 4. Or alternatively, improvise in bars 3 and 4, 7 and 8, 11 and 12. So bars 1 and 2, I'm going to play jazz chords and then answer the chords with improvisation for 2 bars. Here it is in practice, 2, 3, 4. And so we're starting to integrate the different skills and different tutorials to try and produce something slightly more complicated and sophisticated. I'm going to love you and leave you. I'm going to play you out with 1 or 2 bits and pieces. Muchas gracias por escuchar y mirar y hasta la próxima vez. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and see you again soon. Adios.